Screen is a terminal multiplexer, a program to allow multiple screens on a terminal. In other words, it means that you can start a screen session, then open any number of virtual terminals inside that session. To get started with Screen, you first have to install it. Since I'm using OpenSUSE, I'm going to install it. Okay, so now to start Screen, you type in Screen, press enter, and then you get a welcome screen. And at the bottom, it tells you press space or return to end. And now you're in Screen. The problem with this is that it's a really plain screen. You can't really tell whether you're in Screen or at another terminal session. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it a little bit more clearer. So I'm just going to exit. Okay, now we're back at the terminal, and as you can see from the bottom, it says screen is terminating. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add I like to call it a navigation bar, but it's actually a caption feature within Screen, but I call it a navigation bar. So what I do is type in caption always. And then I put it into the screen RC file. Okay, so now when I start Screen again, I still get the welcome screen, which is normal. But this time around, you can see that there's a caption at the bottom. I like to call it a navigation bar. It's much easier to understand. The navigation bar is very helpful because it tells you what screen you're in, or you can call it what windows or what tab that you're in. In addition to that, the navigation bar tells you that you're in Screen, basically, so there's no confusion. So now that we're in Screen, the first thing that we need to understand is how do we navigate around the Screen program. So everything in Screen starts with Control A followed by another key. So for instance, if we want to get help, we do Control A and then release, and then Shift the question mark key. And at this point we get the help screen that tells you what screen options that you have. Just to note that it tells you, for instance, to get help, it was Control A and then question mark. But just to make it a little bit more clearer, I said Control A. You have to hold down the Shift key and then hit the question mark key, because if you don't hold down the Shift key, you get the /. Okay, so let's go ahead and end this. And now we're back to the original Screen window, or screen, whichever way you want to call it. I like to call it Screen windows, is the same thing at this point. Okay, so now I'm going to show some just real world examples. So at the bottom here, it tells you that we're on 0, which means that we're on the first screen. So the first screen is 0, the second screen is 1, the third screen is 2. So you have up to 10 screens that you can open. So, and in addition to the 0, it says bash, meaning that we're on the first screen and we're running the bash shell. So now let's start with some examples here. I'm going to go ahead and open up 3 screens. So on the first screen that I currently have open, I'll just run top. Okay, now I'm going to open a second screen by doing a Control A followed by the letter C, or the C key. And now I get a second screen, and you can tell from the lower left here I'm on 1, which is the second screen, and I'm still running the bash shell. So on the second screen, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to go browse Google. Okay, now I'm at Google. So now I'm going to open up a third screen by doing a Control A followed by the letter or the key C. And now at the bottom it says that I'm on 2, which is the third screen. And for the third screen, I'm just going to write a quick simple script. Okay, so we know that we have open 3 screens. So the best way to tell how many screens that we have opened is to do a Control A followed by the double quote key. So it's actually Control A, Shift, and then the double quote key. And now it tells you that I have 3 screens open, or you can call it 3 windows if you want. We have the first one, the second one, and the third one. So we know that on the second screen, we were running the text browser. So let's go ahead and select that. And now we're back at the text browser. We can bring back that list again. So Control A, double quote, and this is the list of the screens that we have open. So let's go to the first one. We're running top, and finally let's go back to the third one. So Control A, double quote, and we're back to the third screen, as you can tell from the lower left. Another way to navigate to different screens instead of listing it using Control A, double quote, is to call it by its number. So for example, if I want to go back to my first screen, I would do Control A and then hit the 0 key. There we go. And then if I want to go back to the third screen, I do Control A followed by the 2 key. If you go to a screen that does not exist, it gives you a warning. So let's go ahead and open up, let's open up a fourth screen which does not exist. Let's see what happens. See, at the bottom it tells you right there, it gives you a little warning. Let's bring that back. It tells you the star, the asterisk, tells you that it tells you the screen that you're currently at. Let me bring it back. Right there, it tells you the screen that you're currently at with a little asterisk, and then there's the minus. It tells you the screen that you were previously at. So now what we're going to do is we're going to let all 3 of these screens run, but we're going to detach from the screen session, but still allow these 3 screens to run. So by doing that, to detach from the screen, you do a Control A followed by the letter or the key D, and it tells you at the bottom that you are now detached from the screen session. Everything that's running that we're running is still running. So nothing has been terminated. Everything is still running. It's just you are detached from the screen session, but the screen session is still running. Now to list any screen sessions that are running, you will type in the command screen -ls, and that gives you a list of all the screen sessions that you're running. Since we only ran 1 screen session, only 1 is listed. You can actually have many screen sessions running at the same time. So to start another screen session, what I would do is I would type in screen -S, And this time around, I'm going to give it a session name. So let's call this second session. Press enter. And now we have started a second screen session, and I'll give a list here. And there's only one screen. The other screen that we had detached from, it's still running, but we started a new session by creating a second screen session. As I indicated before, you can create multiple screen sessions. So I'm just going to go ahead and detach from this second screen session. Control A, D, and let me go ahead and list it again. And so this is the first one. This is the first one that we had created, and this is the second one that we had created, but we gave it a session name to make it a little bit more understandable. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to terminate the second session, and the easiest way to do that is to type in screen dash capital X dash S and then just copy, whoops, actually it might be a good idea to put a little double quote here, and then you want to send the quit command to this session. So what this does is the X it sends the specified command, which is quit, to this session here. So press enter. Now let's go ahead and list it again. And we have now terminated the second session, but the first session is still running. Let's go ahead and reattach to this session here by typing screen space dash R. And if you only have one screen session, like right here, you can just do this and it will automatically connect to this or reattach to this. But it's usually a good idea to specify the screen session. And now we're back to our first screen session that we created. So let me go ahead and list it. So one footnote that I would like to add is if you're going to reattach to a screen session, it's usually a good idea to detach it first before reattaching. So for instance, let me go ahead and detach, Control A, D. Go ahead and list it. So originally we had used the R to reattach, which works. What I like to add is you might want to add a dash D before the dash R. And what the dash D does is it detaches the elsewhere running screen session. So in other words, if there was another user that was connected to this screen session, what the D does is it would detach that user from this screen session first, and then it reattaches this user to this screen session. So that might some people might have problems reattaching, and most likely it's because someone else is currently attached to the screen session that you want to attach to. So let me go ahead and enter. And now we're back. So now we know that we have 3 screens running. Let's go ahead and manually close each screen. So let's start with, I don't know, this one. Okay, so to close this screen, which is according to this is the second screen. So we do a Control A and then the K key. So that's Control A, K. And I ask you on the bottom here, yes or no. Say yes. And let's do another list. And now we have only 2 screens, because we closed the second screen. So let's go ahead and close the this one. So Control A, K. Yes or no? Yes. Do another list. And now we only have 1 screen left. So to close this is the same routine with just Control A. Another way to close this is to type exit. But for this example, let's go ahead and just Control A, K. Say yes. Do a list. And as you can see, we don't have any more screen sessions running. So here's a real world example of why screen is a very useful tool. Let's say, for example, you SSH or remotely connect to this computer and you want to run an update. So the problem with running updates remotely is that there's a possibility that as you're running the update, the connection will terminate for whatever reason. It could be internet is down or your router is down or whatever. And so you don't want to terminate your session while you're running an update. So this is where Screen comes in. Screen will continue to run the screen session with whatever you're trying to do within that screen session. So here's an example. So let's say, for example, I'm currently connected to this computer remotely. So at this point, I would go into Screen. Okay, I get this message. So since I'm running Tumbleweed and I want to run an update, so I want to go sudo okay, at this point it lists the updates that are currently available. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to say yes. It'll run the update. As it's running the update, I'm going to detach from the screen, and then in a few minutes I'll come back, and it should be finished. So let's go ahead and say yes. Okay, so I'm just going to detach and do a quick list. And as you can see, the screen session is still running. We can do a quick check to go back in to reattach, and as you can see, it's still running. So we're going to come back when it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and detach. And again, we're going to come back when it's done. Okay, so the update has been running for a few minutes. So let's take a look at the progress of the update. All right, so it looks like the update has been completed, and as you can see, it says that the reboot is required to ensure that that your system benefits from these updates. So essentially, the update is complete in regards to the tumbleweed update process. All right, that is essentially what Screens is all about. It's a terminal multiplexer. It allows you to do many different things. You can take a look at the manual to get more information. Other things that Screen can do is you can split the windows, you can share a screen session, and many other options that Screen provides. It's an excellent program, and I highly recommend it for everybody. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.